Happy Friday and welcome back to WagerTalk TV, guys. This is PuckTime. Andrew McGinnis, Carmine Bianco, and Bryan Leonard here to break down a bunch of games and go through how we'll be betting the return to play in the NHL. We got a handful of games. We have some props. We have the 6 and 60. We have bets, and we also have great promotional stuff to get into as well. And I was starting to think he wasn't coming back, but he is back. Carmine is here. Carm, how are you? How was your trip? And what games did you choose for us today?
Yeah, a belated Merry Christmas to those of you, or Happy Hanukkah, or whatever else you use as a designation, or Happy Holidays. It was great, Andrew. 4 quick days in Vegas, 5 if you counted the travel day. I took my wife to Bruno Mars, and then I got her a ticket to see Bruno Mars the very next night on her own. She had a fantastic time. Absolutely. The guy puts on a fantastic concert. You know why I couldn't go second night? They take your phone away from you. I can't be without my phone. They put your phone in this thing called the Yonder Pack. They slip it in, they snap it closed. Imagine when you go to shopping and they have those tags on that they have to scan and release with the die packs. That's what they had at the concert. No phones allowed. You get to keep the phone in the sack, and then when you're leaving, they scan it and it opens up, and you can take your phone out. 2 hours, 2.5 hours without a phone. Oh, can't do it, man. Guy my age needs his phone and the scores. But I did get to hang out with Marco D'Angelo, Bryan Leonard on the Thursday night when I arrived. We went to watch the Vegas Golden Knights with their lovely wives. And once again, Bryan, I'll bring you in for a quick moment. The Vegas Golden Knights are 4-0 when I attend the game, Bryan. I even mentioned we should live wager them when they're down 1-0, but that was a great time, man. Vegas, if you haven't been to a Golden Knights game, they know how to do it right, Andrew. Not like Toronto, and I'm going to pound on the Leaf fans. The pregame show, not the fans, the organization, the pregame show in Vegas leading up to the opening puck drop, Bryan, is one of the best I've ever seen, and I've been to quite a few stadiums and arenas. What do you think?
Yeah, it's
Right?
it's a lot of fun. We had season tickets for so long. I used to just watch the out of town fans to get their reactions because it was new to them mostly. But yeah, it's a lot of fun here in Vegas. The only problem was we were sitting one seat away from each other, and it was so loud I could barely hear what anybody was saying. So that was the only drawback. Is if well, actually, Marco was 2 away from me, so I didn't need to hear what he had to say. But other than that, yeah, we were having a good time.
Yeah, and right in front of us, I think 2 rows in front of us was the guitarist from REO Speedwagon. So that was
Yeah,
pretty good.
they
I could probably name one REO Speedwagon song. I'm sorry, I've heard them all, but I can't name the songs. It's kind of like Bruno Mars. If you ask me a Bruno Mars song, I don't know them. But if I'm listening to one on the radio, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard that one before. So I made some friends while I was there who became subscribers to the YouTube channel. So
nice.
and Puck Time, quite a discussion outside before the actual concert. So guys, if you're watching, we appreciate you guys subscribing while I was there and watching the show. A couple nice guys, one from South Carolina, one from the East Coast as well too, ones that I can remember, and a couple of guys from Tennessee who were in town to watch Tennessee get absolutely smoked in the college football. Sorry about that. It happens. But with that said, listen, we got the Leafs and the Red Wings, a new coach in Detroit. We'll talk about the coaching bounce. Minnesota and Dallas renew their rivalry. Andrew's prop segment. And then we're going to finish it off with Colorado, Utah, the 6 and 60 segment. And then we'll do a best bet segment as well, too, guys. I hope you guys all had a great festive season, and it's not over yet because we have New Year's up ahead. But Bryan, I'm going to go to you first. We know what just happened in Detroit, coaching change, and one that probably needed to happen a couple of weeks ago, but lo and behold, it's finally happened. Leafs minus 150 in the first of a back-to-back for the Leafs. They're in action tomorrow against the Washington Capitals. Detroit plus 130 at home. It looks like it's going to be Alex Lyon in goal for Detroit and Matt Murray, who they called up from the AHL, Matt Murray for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Where are you going with this one?
This is what I would call my Dave Culkin special. As great as a handicapper Dave was, and I think we all learned a lot from him. One of the things he would do anytime in any sport there was a coaching change, he would bet on that team and he would ride it out for as many times as they could get that victory. And it's always worked out well. And every time I followed Dave on it, it worked out well again. And hopefully for Johnny Detroit and his Red Wings tonight, we'll see that again. We're going to take a look at the season-to-date numbers. Maple Leafs have a plus 33 net scoring advantage on the season, but they played 20 of their 35 games at home. When looking on 5-on-5, expected goal share, we find Toronto at 49.5, Detroit 45.22, a little bit low on the Detroit side. They've been more of a team this year that has struggled offensively. And really, I think Toronto's struggled offensively when you take a look at the talent they've had. They're holding their own, but they're not playing as well as a Toronto fan would expect. Maple Leafs enter playoff back-to-back losses to the Islanders and the Jets at home, so you'd expect that this would be a motivating factor for the visitor. The last 5 games featured the offenses in Toronto games, scoring 7, 9, 9, 8, and 8 goals as of late. And, of course, you talked about it, the big news out of Detroit is a coaching change. And it came at a good time with the holiday break. I think when you don't force it and when you get a few days off, you give that coach a chance to get in there and start to learn a little bit more about the players and do what he wants to do. It's nice to do that over a break, and that's what we're getting here from Detroit. The Red Wings enter having lost 3 straight games with the offense scoring 4 total goals. I mentioned that earlier. It's been a team that's had trouble scoring this year. But even worse, it came against 2 lower division teams, St. Louis and Montreal twice. So that's probably enough to get you fired, and that's what has happened in Detroit. It's clear that Toronto's the better team here, but they're off a tough situation playing this game on the road. I prefer the plus money here with the host and the coaching change game. I don't think Toronto will go down easily, but you've got to like a team playing at home with a new coach, and I'll back Detroit here.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, Brian. Before I send it to Andrew for his thoughts on this, I'm leaning Detroit as well too. Plus, getting the plus money. They did beat the Leafs. A couple of weeks ago? I think it was December the 12th. They beat them in Detroit at Little Caesars, 4-2 in that one, and they've won 3 of the last 5 at home against the Leafs. It's the coach's bounce, and I get sometimes. If you're watching the show and you're watching it for the first time, you're thinking, what are these guys talking about? What difference does a coach make? The teams still have to play on the ice. And yeah, they do. But we saw it with St. Louis. They started to win some games. We saw it with the Bruins, who didn't look good. They get rid of Montgomery, who ends up in St. Louis. I think St. Louis probably pulled their trigger a little early at the time because they were getting Montgomery. They had a chance to get Montgomery, and you're getting a coach who has had a .660 winning percentage the last couple of seasons. You just don't pass that up if you're going to change your coach. And we saw some instant returns from these teams, but it's almost like that regression to the mean. It goes back to what it is. And now Detroit has no excuse. If they weren't playing for Lalonde, they have to play for their new coach. We'll see what happens with this team. There's enough talent on this team that they should be performing a lot better than they have of late. So we'll see. The fact that it likely could be Matt Murray in goal for the Leafs, being called up from the AHL, we'll see what that does. I would think that the fact that Stolarz is out, that they're going to want to start Joseph Woll. I would think they would want to start Joseph Woll at home on Saturday with the Washington Capitals coming to town, because the Caps did beat the Leafs the last time they were in Toronto 3-1. So, and the Leafs are off back-to-back losses. So I think you want your better goalie at home. Give Matt Murray a start on the road. I'm going to take Detroit in this one, plus 130, and throw it to Andrew for his thoughts.
Guys, I won't think too heavy about this one because this is another first period over spot that's been really successful for me all season long. On Friday, we cashed a Rangers and Stars first period over 1.5, with the Rangers coming off a shutout, and that game went over easily in the first period. Well, this is kind of like a double whammy situation here because we have the Red Wings, as you guys talked about, off the shutout and then off losses to, as much as it pains me to say, two not very good teams, being the St. Louis Blues and the Montreal Canadiens. So you always get that, mode of encouragement. And I understand, we'll see if it still works here, because it has been a few days off for these teams. So will that sense of urgency still be there after the shutout loss? We'll see. But if that sense of urgency isn't there from the shutout loss, it'll certainly be there from Todd McLellan being hired as Detroit's new coach. And let's not forget, guys, despite Edmonton having McDavid and Draisaitl and these talented players, Todd McLellan was the coach that broke the playoff drought for the Edmonton Oilers. So he has a proven track record of jumping in with teams that haven't been performing well enough and jumping in and taking them to the next level. So we'll see what he can do, but usually we see either one of two things: a defensive bump for certain teams or an offensive bump. And I think for Detroit right now, it's really the offense that they need to wake up the most. So off the shutout loss with the new coach, with Toronto's and the superstars that they have being rested, getting some time to get some fresh legs, I think this is going to be a game where we see goals, and we see goals early on. Carmine just talked about the goaltending situation. Hasn't been good for the Red Wings, that's for sure. Especially the analytics will tell you that a lot of these numbers could potentially be worse for the Red Wings and some of their numbers. And of course, with Toronto and the goaltending injuries that they've had to deal with, things getting a little bit more difficult for them right now. So I'm going to go ahead, guys, over 1.5 first period. And I'll tell you, the best part about these first period over situational plays with the team being off a shutout is you always get a good number here. It's not like I'm giving out minus 150 or 60 first period overs. This is minus 125 for a team. And then the reason being is because you have a team struggling to score. So you get a team struggling to score. They have one goal combined their last two games. Why would the total be a high price? Why would the first period be high if this team has scored just one in their last two? So Leafs, Red Wings, first period, up and over 1.5 goals. I think it's a great bet here, guys, and hopefully the three of us can cash in tonight on that game. Guys, I love the chat box. Love you guys being here with us. Hope you all had a really great holiday, and hope you're still having a great week here. Looking forward to the NHL being back, and you guys can find all three of us over at WagerTalk.com. We have some great deals going on heading into the new year. We also still have some great deals for January. If you want to buy January's 1 month special, it's a great call as well. Moving on to our second game, let's talk the Minnesota Wild here, Brian, because I think you and I share the same opinion on this game. How do you feel about their game today on the road against the Dallas Stars, two talented teams?
Yeah, this is going to be my best bet, so I'll save the drama. Both teams have solid success in 5-on-5 expected game score. The Wild 52.65, Stars 52.80. Which is why they've had so much success this season. Despite trailing Minnesota by 6 points in the standings, Dallas does own a plus 12 net scoring advantage between the two. Minnesota's been great on the road, 12-6 on the road. Dallas has been great at home, 13-5 at home. So by season-to-date numbers, this should be a very evenly played game. Both teams have the same rest schedule with the 3 days off, along with an off day tomorrow. So there's no advantage there. The Wild broke a 4-game losing streak last time out by beating Chicago at home 4-3. But those opponents that they lost to were all really good teams. Vegas, Winnipeg, Utah, Florida. Dallas has left home just once in the last 20 days. That was a 1-game road trip. This line seems to be a bit high based on everything we look for when we're handicapping hockey. So I'm going to take this generous number with Minnesota. Minnesota plays great on the road. Dallas plays great at home. And if you take a look at the season-date numbers, they're right there. Two very competitive teams. This number's too high. I'll take Minnesota.
Carm, it does seem like a generous number here for a Wild team. They struggled going into the break, and then Santa Claus gave them a gift, and they got to play the Chicago Blackhawks as their last game before Christmas. Only beat them by 1. But I think every team needs to face adversity, and Minnesota went through it a little bit. But are they going to get back on track here at a nice plus price?
I don't think so. I'm going to take Dallas. I'm going to
Oh,
go head to head with Brian on this one. Listen, again, we don't know the goalies coming out of the this All-Star break, this Christmas break. But you would think it's going to be Oettinger and Gustafsson, so the two best goalies in there. It's just, you look at some of the numbers. Dallas, their last 6 at home against the Minnesota, they're 5-0-1. They seem to have their number when playing at home, and that's excluding any of the preseason games, because if you add those in, those were Minnesota or Dallas wins as well too. And if you look at not only this season but all of last season, the Dallas Stars have only lost 2 straight games at home, or sorry, 3 straight games at home in the last 2 seasons. And that's what they're facing right now. They lost 3-1 to the Rangers. They lost 5-3 to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Are they going to lose 3 straight again? I'm not entirely sure they're going to. Minnesota kind of limped into the All-Star break, as you mentioned. There's a couple teams that limped into the All-Star break. I keep saying the All-Star break because the Christmas break has me confused, but into the Christmas break. And I'm not sure how they are coming out of it. I don't want to take a team that has lost like 4 of their last 5 games and say, okay, this is when they are going to get the win against it, especially going into Dallas. It's such a tough venue at American Airlines. I get it. It's a big price. You can take the regulation on this. The only caveat to that is that these two teams could easily go to overtime in this one. So I wouldn't want to take a lower price because of that. This is probably my high end on paying for the Dallas Stars at home, but I would take them. A team that is very good at home, has proven it the last couple of seasons, and dating back even further than that. I only went back 2 seasons to look at their stats at home, and only once did they lose 3 straight times at home, and that was coming out of the New Year's Eve break, where they played on, I think it was on the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 5th, in and around there, the first week of 2023, where they lost 3 straight games at home. No, give me the Dallas Stars in this one, minus 170. I'll lay the price, Andrew.
I said it at the start. I agree with Brian a little bit here. I like the Wild at the plus 145 price. I'm more of a guy that likes to take the Wild, though, at home. So that kind of is one thing that worries me. I like when they get the last change. I like how good of a defensive team they are at home. So probably one of the few times I will jump on the Wild on the road. But I think, Brian, one of the reasons we're probably getting the price that we're getting is because they're on the road. These are probably 2 teams that would be getting different prices, road, home splits here. Plus 145, the number that I locked in. And, I asked Ralph Michaels yesterday if he could do me a favor and send me some numbers for teams that are well rested, because we all create theories. We all look at different options, whether it's post-holiday break or all-star break or whatever it may be. But the bottom line is these teams have had a couple days off, right? A lot of teams played on Monday. These teams haven't played for a little while. This season, when the Minnesota Wild have had 2 or more days of rest, they are 9-1 on the year. And of course, they've been a great team throughout the entire season, so it's hard not to imagine them having a really good record. But I want to know how the teams perform when they're extremely well rested, right? We know how some teams perform when they're on back-to-backs. We know how some teams perform when they've got a 1-day rest, whatever it might be. 2+ days rest. When I look at this team, I want to back them. I want to back the well-rested team. And there's also this angle, guys, and this is one that I've used over the years as well. Sometimes I believe these pro athletes can be more focused and more dialed in if they're on the road versus at home, right? If you're at home, you still have your kids running around. You've got Christmas presents all over the place. People are still in the holiday spirit. You get out on the road. You get on the team plane. You are back to business. Right? You are back to business. You're back to business as usual. You're back to the pro hockey life, and you're not just at home. Things probably don't feel the same. The best way to get back on track and to get back into that NHL mindset is to get out on the road and play a game. And I think especially because Minnesota had such a rough go going into the holiday break, they're going to be locked in here. This is going to mean a hell of a lot to them. They got a bunch of veterans on the team. Plus 145. Is a play that I'm interested in. So, Carm, I think I'm scrolling now. I do have two props I wanted to mention. I thought I sent them into
All right, all
to
right,
our group chat with me,
all
you,
right,
and Dan,
all
or
right.
to the pro. I don't think I did
Apparently,
though.
listen, apparently, guys, even though I took a couple days, went to Vegas, probably had and Brian and I were talking about this, probably had in Vegas from the Thursday that I arrived until the Monday morning that I left, I had like maybe 5 drinks the whole trip. I had one beer at the third period of the Vegas Golden Knights Vancouver game. Marco D'Angelo bought me a beer. Just didn't drink. Um, it was a fantastic trip, but someone has been into the eggnog, and I think it's Andrew McInnes. I don't know. Andrew, when you have eggnog, do you drink it the right way where you have eggnog and you actually put like some rum in it or anything? Or are you just drinking like eggnog with like some cinnamon sprinkled on it? Because it's telling us you sent some plays in, and then Brian and I are even at our age, our vision is good. We can't see anything there, but we will take your word for it, young pup.
I love eggnog, but I will not drink it alone. It's with coffee or it's with rum. And yesterday I was at my old man's place, and I think he poured more rum than eggnog in there. And you can probably tell that by not sending in any of these plays. So you hate to see it, and I'm getting absolutely just railed right now. Um, yeah, this is tough. This is tough. Look, here's the deal. I only have a few props I wanted to mention. One of them is Dylan Larkin to get a point for the Detroit Red Wings. And guys, you both like the coach's bump here, the coach's bounce, whatever we want to call it, for the Detroit Red Wings. So if we're going to like Detroit to bounce back, if I'm going to like goals for them today, if I'm going to like goals in the first period, and I do like the full game over, as mentioned, Detroit coming off a shutout against St. Louis and then a 4-1 loss against Montreal. This is going to be an important spot for them to impress their new head coach. Well, there's one guy that has to show up, and he's the guy wearing the C on his chest. Minus 130 for Dylan Larkin here, guys. He has a point in 4 straight games against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I do like that one quite a bit here. Here's one that's kind of interesting as well. The Vegas Golden Knights, a team that's done very well when they're well rested, and a team that I don't think takes anybody lightly when they're playing a bad team, whether it's Anaheim or whether it's San Jose. They won't take anybody lightly. Alex Pietrangelo to get a point is plus 140, right? But here's the thing, guys. He's not scoring a goal. So you can go from plus 140, or you can take him at plus 185 to get an assist. Alex Pietrangelo to go from assist to point. It's just way better to look at that comparison versus San Jose. I think Vegas is going to score a ton on San Jose. Pietrangelo plus 185. I like that one. And the last one I wanted to mention, this one is kind of juicy, but Andy Lang has been betting this one as well. And it's Ryan Hartman from the Minnesota Wild over 1.5 shots. Very simple. They're not going to move him to 2.5. But these 1.5 prop guys have been absolutely cashing tickets with their shots on goal prop bets. And the thing is, his utilization has gone down with some of the younger guys stepping up. And with his minutes and his ice time going down, the prop has stayed at 1.5. There was a time when it was at 2.5 for Ryan Hartman. I like Minnesota as a live dog today as plus 145 on the road against Dallas, which means I like some of their players, of course, to play well. And I think Ryan Hartman is kind of that sandpaper depth piece that could play extremely well against the Dallas Stars. So we'll go with Hartman. We'll go with Pietrangelo and Dylan Larkin. Probably my favorite prop of the day, guys. Minus 130 to record a point. So, Carm, I did have a few player props for you. I know you like Detroit. So what are your thoughts on that one? Larkin to get a point, minus 130. 4 straight games for him. He has a point against Toronto.
Yeah, Andrew, it's one of the things I will do, and it comes sometimes it comes with the warning of when you like a team, and then you normally will gravitate to the player props for that team, thinking they're going to get a win, they're going to get it could be a big win, but if they're going to win, they're going to win it, and the player props are going to come in, the shot props are going to come in. You can play those assist props, the point props, the anytime goal scorer props. It's when the game turns into a dud. And I'll use just to go off on a bit of a tangent, I'll use last night's football game. That should have never been a football game. 6-3 football game in the NFL. Like what the hell is that? 6-3 at halftime. And at halftime, my props were looking okay. The second half, they did absolutely nothing. So I liked Seattle. I like some of the Seattle players, and they all went down for lack of a better word, they went down the shitter. Hockey's a little different, so I would hope that you hit on these props there. Who knows? Maybe I'll wear my Patrick Kane jersey today while I watch the Red Wings. Hopefully, thrash the Toronto Maple Leafs, but we'll see how that game goes. I'm sure we'll discuss it on Monday's show. Brian, I'm going to go to you first on this one. We've got Colorado minus 135, Utah at home plus 115. It looks like right now it's Vejmelka for Utah and Blackwood, who's been pretty good. Or I think he's looked solid for Colorado since coming over. What are your thoughts on this one?
5-on-5 play, expected goals, Colorado 51.7 and Utah 51.65. Utah's playing really well. They've really come along themselves. Both teams have steadily improved as the season's going on. And similar to the last game I talked about, Colorado owns a 4-point advantage in the division, but Utah has a +2 net scoring advantage. Not quite as much as the Dallas-Minnesota situation, but still a game very comparable. Colorado's had the last 4 days off compared to Utah, which has had the 3. But is that an advantage or a disadvantage? We talk about it. In fact, Andrew talked about having 2 days off or longer when he got the numbers from Rolf. So that's something to take advantage of if you believe in the rust or the rest. The Avalanche also get the next 3 days off after this one. So they're only going to play one game in 8 days, and that's when they're hosting Winnipeg. The Utah team has had a very good month overall, but they are off back-to-back home losses to Anaheim and Dallas. I prefer the Utah side in here. I'm hoping to get a little bit better number. Since you recently talked about your props, Andrew, we're not going to talk about the Carolina-New Jersey game, but right now New Jersey is not letting the opposition get any shots off at all, and they're playing one of the best shooting teams in the league. How do you treat that a little bit differently with your props?
Well, the thing is, Brian, I think I'm a lot more of a this season. I've tried to get better at being more opponent rank, like looking at opponent versus recent trends. Because, like when I used to bet props, I was betting like this, and you see a lot of people on social media do this, right? They'll say this player for the last 5 games, 5 of the last 6 games, and I do that on this show as well. I'll be real, but a lot of times what I'm looking at now is opponent rank. Right. So you're basing it specifically just off the matchup. Like you said, Carolina with their shots on goal, or New Jersey. And even Karma's mentioned New Jersey's versus how they play at home versus they play on the road. It's unbelievable. So, one thing I've been looking at more is the opponent ranking and looking a lot less towards kind of the player recent trends. So I think we got to be aware of that. I think we got to look at Carolina. But Brian, do you find that they're much more of a high scoring team this year because of their shot count or just the talent that's there?
Yeah, there's a lot of talent, and they've known to put up a lot of problems for the goalies, a lot of pressure on the goalies. Also, when you take a look at the props, you kind of mentioned the Vegas San Jose game. Hurdle is going to be going back for his first game at San Jose. One of the reasons why I prefer Vegas in that game is they're going to want to make sure he goes back on a win. But it would not be surprising to me if he sets himself up and is able to score a point one way or another. I'm not a prop guy. You're the prop guy. I learned from you. But that's something I would keep an eye on there.
Carm, I never know what I'm jumping in anymore, man. I never know what I'm jumping
I'm sorry. I'm replying to. Listen, I'm replying. I was just replying to, because Melissa sent me a message as well too. I was replying to a guy in our live chat who had my 7-day, who had like a 7-day all access that ended like a couple of days ago, and it was I'm going to call it an up and down, but more down than up package. So I wanted to make sure that I extended that 7-day package right through to the weekend. And Melissa did it for me. George is a good guy. I want to make sure that the guy wins. We all put real money on it, right? So I've said it on the show. I'm not going to recommend a game or give you a lean on a game that I'm not betting myself. And if I wasn't going to bet it myself, I would tell you, well, if a gun was held to my head, I would take, Dallas minus 170. I'm letting you know it's whether it makes my card or not, my betting card, not my WagerTalk card. So everyone's using real money when they're betting. I don't think anyone's using coupons to bet. But Andrew, with that said, the props can be lucrative. We will see as we head in. There's some very good teams, and after the 6 and 60 segment, I'm going to mention after the 6 and 60 segment um, a team that I think is going to get on a very good roll. I talked about the Ottawa Senators and using that homestand to really spark their season. And Ottawa's playing phenomenal hockey right now. Eight of the last 10 games. But Andrew, before I have one thing to vent, and I'm sorry, Dan, I have to do it. One thing to vent about losing games. And this happened to me twice while I was in Vegas. And Brian knows this story. Imagine betting on a team, Andrew, that never trailed the whole game, and the only time they trailed was when they lost in overtime. The Nashville Predators do it against Pittsburgh and blow 2-goal leads, go to overtime, lose in overtime. That was the first one. Then the Columbus Blue Jackets, where I have a plus money against Philadelphia, they lead the whole game. Philly ties it late after they pull their goalie. Philly wins it in overtime. Again, never trailed the whole game. And then Ottawa that same night almost did it again to me. I had them at plus money in Vancouver. They led the whole game. And Vancouver ties it up. It goes to overtime, but this time Ottawa wins. Brian, I don't think I would have come back from Vegas. I would have been so disheartened. I might have jumped off of the Strat, losing 3 games like that where your team never trailed at any point in the game until the game-winning goal was scored in the third period. Andrew, have you had any of those before I get into 6 and 60?
Of course, but I keep reminding you, if you're going to fade certain teams, just take the team totals, please. The team totals are the way to go. You only have to worry about one team when you do it. But speaking of team totals, I just want to say I didn't mention anything on the game. I like Colorado over 3.5 today, guys. It fits my criteria. It fits the number I like. It's that perfect price of plus 110 for them over 3.5. If you're going to fade Utah today, I think the team total is the way to go. Get away from that juice. Take the team total over 3.5. We've seen regression from Utah's goaltenders. Last year, Arizona had goaltenders that were overachieving, and it helped them win games, or it saved them from getting blown out in certain games. And now today here with Utah, when I was going over some of the numbers during the break, I saw just a lot of their goaltenders with some really poor numbers and analytical stats here. I think Colorado comes out of the break hot. They're going to score at least 4 goals tonight, and we're going from that minus price to a plus price at plus 110. That's my move, Carm. Back to you.
I like it, and I didn't give my thoughts. I'm going to make it very quick. Utah 1-7 their last 8 games at home. Not a very good record for them. Colorado 5-1 their last 6 away, and maybe a little bit of revenge because Utah went into Colorado on December the 12th and beat them by a 4-1 scoreline. So a bit of revenge, not rapid revenge, but this is a very good Colorado team. So I think the price is right on this one. I would lay the $1.35 in this one. And with that said, moving along, and I see Don Buster is in our live chat. Buster has a 5% play up today at WagerTalk. You can find that over at his page. Let's give him some love. He'll be back next week on the show. But it's time for the 6 and 60. I never get it in 60 seconds, but we're going to give it a shot right now. Dan, hit the clock. All right, Montreal and Florida Panthers 10-4-1 their last 15 and gearing up for a big second half and their cup defense. We're going to take them in regulation here. Florida in regulation. Seattle and Vancouver. The Kraken hobbled into the into the Christmas break. 5 straight losses, 24 goals allowed. Vancouver, their next 6 games for Vancouver are very winnable games. I expect them to move up the standings and have a very good week to week and a half coming up. Toronto and Washington. Toronto 14-6 at home, but they're off back-to-back losses at home. I don't see them losing 3 straight at home, and they did lose 3-1 to Washington, so a little bit of a revenge there. Give me the Leafs money line. Rangers and Tampa. I'm going to take the under in this one. Rangers unders are 7-0-1 since they lost 7-5 to the Seattle Kraken. Give me the under in this one. Ottawa and Winnipeg. I'm taking the under in this one as well too. Jets have been good all season defensively, but Ottawa 7-1-2 to the under their last 10 games during this great streak that they put together, going 8-2. And we're going to finish it off with Calgary and San Jose. The Sharks, despite losing, are playing some very good hockey. They're very competitive, and the Flames haven't won 2 straight games since November. They don't do it here. Give me the Sharks at plus money on the money line. That's your 6-60.
Look at this guy go. Jeez. All right. Okay. All right. Not bad. Right at the buzzer.
Out of the Christmas break, not the All-Star break, out of the Christmas break. Let's see if we can hit a 6-60. But I mentioned that Seattle Kraken, Andrew, won. Seattle Kraken and Vancouver, and with Demko being back and them being back to like sort of that normal 1-2 goaltending combo, these are their games coming up. They play the Kraken tonight at home. Then they play Calgary in 3 days' time in Calgary. Then they go to Seattle, play the Kraken again in the new year. Home to Nashville, at Montreal, and then at Washington on the 8th. If you look at those first 5 games I mentioned, they play Seattle twice, they play Calgary, they play the Nashville Predators, they play the Montreal Canadiens. There are some wins in there, Andrew, and yes, I get it. Your Montreal Canadiens are no longer the free space on the bingo card that might belong to the Buffalo Sabres this year, but lo and behold, that's a very good schedule for Vancouver, and I would venture a guess that out of those 6 games, they're going to win 5 of them. So you might want to jump on them and just figure out how to play them, because in the games in which they're minus 180, you might want to look at reg lines for them. Thoughts?
Yeah, especially out of the break. I mean, there's certain teams that get that reset and they're going to come out firing a little bit more. So I can't talk you off it. I think it's good for them, and they're going to probably go on a streak. And my Canadians, I don't know what to say. Their goaltending, they pretty much have one goalie right now that's played 10 straight games. That's not good for them. And then you've got key players being injured. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. But Brian, you did mention your best bet earlier. Remind folks what it was again and what you have going for the rest of the weekend here at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, we used the Minnesota, the Wild, plus a pretty good number against Dallas. That was our best bet on the show. And then before that, I also used Detroit, and I like that one as well. Up on the site right now, I've got those two hockey plays. You don't got to pay for those at all. That's your reward for joining us today. I also have one bowl game up on today's card, and it's a long day for me as I'm trying to get everything up on Saturday. And it's been a busy week for everybody with family and the holidays, but we've got some good plays up now, and I'll expect to have a really big weekend.
Well, Brian, I'll be following along, and my phone does work, so feel free to share some of those plays, because you do handicap some sports that I don't always bet. So, hey, feel free to send them over. I don't mind. The holiday spirit is still with us, so send them along. I'll happily follow along with you as well. But guys, again, Brian over at WagerTalk.com, and the gloves are on Bet Center Ice. Brian and Carm are head-to-head on that one, but it is Brian's best bet here on the show, Carm, so he might get a little bit of an edge with it being his best bet here with Minnesota. But what do you have for your best bet here today, Carm, and what do you have going with clients?
Well, I mentioned it, that I like Dallas. I wouldn't make, it likely won't make my card just because the vig is too high. So I can cheer for Brian to win that, but I would cheer for the guys who are following me on the show to win as well, too. So I'm sorry, Brian, if I have to choose between our loyal followers and you, it's the loyal followers. But I wish you the best of luck on every other play that you have that we're not against each other on. I mentioned Don Buster, who's got the 5% play. You can find it over at Wager Talk. I have 4% best bet up in the NHL tonight. I'm going to be adding a couple more plays as well, too. That was initially part of the $5 customer appreciation. We've had a good run on that, I think, going 10-4 with those customer appreciation plays. So hopefully that trend continues. 5% play going on Sunday in the NFL. And I really like some hockey games on Saturday. So I'm going to have a big card over the next 3 days. You can pick up the 3-day all access package, and that's going to get you everything the next 3 days. My best bet, I'm going to go back to Andrew, the first game we talked about, the new coaches bounce. I want to see what Detroit has. Plus 130 at home, a place where they've already beaten the Leafs 4-2. And we don't talk about look ahead games, but this could very well be the Leafs looking ahead to Washington. They went into Washington, stole one when they were there. They lose to Washington at home, and they've got a very good Washington team coming in again. And if it's Matt Murray in goal today, he still doesn't warm the cockles of my heart as a goalie between the pipes. So give me Detroit on the coach's bounce plus 130 to win tonight in the first game after the Christmas break. Andrew, what do you think of that?
I like the idea behind the guys with some underdog bets to kick things off for us again here out of the break. I am not betting an underdog, but I am betting those first period plays that continue to be very successful for me. And hopefully all of you have followed along with these first period angles. And it's in the exact same game that Carmine just mentioned. First period, over 1.5 goals, Detroit and Toronto. When a team is off a shutout, you bet it. When a team is off a game where there was a shutout, you take a look at the first period over, especially with that new coach. These teams will come out really, really, really hot, and I think Detroit will do exactly that against Toronto. We'll look for at least 2 goals in the first period. Guys, looking like it'll be a 3-pack, which is the biggest card I've had in quite some time in the NHL. We are on a 13-3 run in our last 16 NHL plays. Don't miss out. Join me today at WagerTalk.com or join long-term with some of our great deals over at the website right now. Wishing you all a profitable day and a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday right here on Puck Time.